Hello and welcome to the Chamber Matters. I'm Regina Montgomery, the Public and Membership Relations Coordinator at the Chamber of Commerce. Agriculture is one of the oldest businesses known to mankind. It dates back to civilization. People learned very quickly that without food they wouldn't be able to exist. Stats Canada just released their findings on agriculture, and they're showing that there is now a shift in what we consider farming, from livestock farming to crop cash-based farms. So on this edition of the show, we're going to look at the different types of farming and agriculture here in Dufferin County. We have different members that are here to talk about their businesses and sort of what the landscape looks like across Dufferin County. First of all, I'm joined by Ron Munro, who is the project lead for Dufferin.biz. Thank you for joining us today on the Chamber Matters.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's talk a little bit about Dufferin.biz, a really catchy name. What exactly does that do in our community?
Well, Dufferin.biz is a marketing initiative to promote Dufferin County and to attract investors and businesses to the county and the region.
So again, you're working with local groups and municipalities, and so how do you go about doing that? How do you attract agribusinesses to our community?
Well, one of the things involved with marketing, of course, is to understand your product. And so we've been working over the last number of months trying to collect data and understand what the economic drivers are in the county. And it quickly became apparent that one of the major drivers in Dufferin County is, in fact, agriculture.
And so in that sector of agriculture, what do you think is the major driver? Are we looking at equine? Are we looking at cash crop farming? What do you think is that major driver?
Well, it's fairly evenly divided at the moment between livestock and cash crops, which are things like wheat and soybeans and canola and so on. But there's a constant shift going on at the moment as commodity prices change, as new technologies start to influence how the work can be done, and just market trends in general. So it's, but we're working to understand what those dynamics are and what the actual numbers represent. The latest data hasn't been pulled out for Dufferin for 2011, but when that becomes available, we get a much clearer picture of who we are in the county.
Now, where are you hoping to attract the farmers from or the agribusinesses from? Are you looking across Canada, or is this more localized?
Well, Dufferin.biz primarily uses the web to promote the various assets and features of Dufferin County. So that goes global. And we have a number of foreigners who have come here to start their farms, and in fact a number of those profiles are featured on the Dufferin.biz site.
Talk a little bit about this shift, Statistics Canada's 2011 stats, just that shift between the livestock and the cash crop. Why do you think that's happening?
A couple of things. Like any commodity, it's very price sensitive. And in some cases, in livestock, there has been oversupply sometimes, and so people cut back and reduce the number of animals that they're producing, and they'll shift over into the cash crops. The farms are being aggregated and becoming bigger. Primarily because the machinery and the technology allows them to do that, and so that's pulling the industry in one direction. And at the same time, you have people that are starting smaller farms, and again being able to produce more on a smaller acreage because of technology and techniques. And they're going more into the niche markets. So you've got two directions going on within this market, within this industry.
And I actually think we have some viz from one of these niche markets. We're going to take a look at some footage from E&J Collins, which is a different type of agricultural business here in Dufferin County.
We have 500 acres of spinach, and it's mainly baby spinach that we sell to all the stores in southern Ontario and to the eastern seaboard, south of in the States. My husband Jim's father was known as the Spinach King 70 years ago down in Toronto, where he sold his spinach to the food terminal, the Ontario Food Terminal, and he grew spinach at Queensway and Islington on a farm, believe it or not, and he was known as the Spinach King. And we used to grow all sorts of market vegetables, but spinach was a niche that we learned how to grow. Other farmers have a hard time growing it, and we grow the best spinach, and that was what we could sell the best for with the least amount of manual labor. All of it is harvested by machinery. There is no hand picking. Everything is done, as you see, by our packaging line behind us. The harvesters out in the field, the wagons that it gets put into, nothing is picked by hand. Whereas cauliflower and lettuce, as everybody knows, is all packed into cases by hand. We need minimal workers. We only have a staff of 15, and we don't need to have the hundreds of field workers. Jim's father, when he was alive, he passed away about 10 years ago. He and his mother would take a Sunday drive and drive the areas like for something that they enjoyed doing. And he would bring home a bushel of dirt from farms that he found, and he said, "I found this just north of Orangeville." And Jim looked at the dirt and he said, "I cannot believe you found soil like this in Orangeville. I thought it was all swampland." So Jim immediately came up, looked at it, and bought the 200 acres. Then we bought another 100 acres across the road. Then we bought another 200 acres, so we've got 500. It just seems to be a pocket of the Beddington loam soil right here north of Orangeville that Jim had no idea even existed, except that his father drove and would bring home bushels for them to taste of soil. Spinach is very high in lutein that helps prevent macular degeneration of the eye, and it's full of vitamin A, vitamin K, calcium and magnesium, and iron, of course, but if you want to have the iron intake, that's why they like you to mix it with fruit. As you do when you take an iron pill, they tell you to take vitamin C. Well, we start planting in May, or April actually, and we start harvesting the end of May. We plant in groups of fields and have something ready to harvest every day. The baby spinach crop takes 21 to 28 days depending on the heat units, and so we like to have something every day being harvested. So we have 500 acres that we put out on a schedule as to what's going to be planted when, what's going to be plowed up when to start over again. And we also do cover cropping so that we're not depleting the soil of all the nutrients. We cover crop with wheat and clover. It is a challenge running a family operation. You have to try and make things equal and fair for everybody, and we do pretty good. My son and my daughter, they stick to their own fields. My son is in charge of field operations, my daughter's in charge of the office, and my other daughter's in charge of shipping and receiving, and our son-in-law is in charge of field work, and so it just all, everybody has their own to stay away from one another. And so at the end of the day, it seems to work for us, whereas a lot of family farm businesses are struggling right now. There isn't room for one of the sons or one of the daughters, and so we've been lucky, fortunate enough that we've been able to employ them and some of their friends.
Interesting type of farming there. What I found interesting was she talked about how the father would drive, or I guess it'd be the grandfather to the children anyway, would drive into different sectors and bring home soil, and they actually tasted that. I thought that was interesting, tasting the soil, but I guess that's how you know if you have good soil, if it's going to be great for agriculture.
Well, that's one of the ways. There's also a number of tests and so on that could be done, scientific tests. And again, it's it's reflective of Dufferin County with the different topographies that we have here, which lend themselves to different kinds of agricultural activities. In the east, with Munro and Mulmer and parts of Amaranth, it's very hilly and tends to be a bit rocky in places. And that's given rise to smaller farms in many cases, and actually the whole equine sector, which is attracted to that topography. In the west of the county, it tends to be flatter, with different soil types, which are important for different kinds of crops. And over the years, with the experience, the farmers know what kind of land is best for which crops. And we're blessed in Dufferin County with a variety of those soil types.
And I think, too, you have some statistics on the different types of farming and agriculture here in the county. Share those with us? Yeah,
stats can be very confusing sometimes, so I don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of numbers, but I do think it's interesting just for everybody's knowledge to understand there's probably 900 farms located in the county doing all kinds of different things. There's about 75,000 hectares under cultivation, which is a lot. And on those farms, there's well over $500 million in capital investment. Those farms also, according to the 2006 statistics, pay salaries in excess of $7 million to local individuals who work on the farm. And that $7 million doesn't include any salary that the owner-operator might keep at the end of the day. So those are off-farm individuals who are coming to work there, employees. It's a lot of money involved.
Yeah, I can understand where Dufferin.biz comes from. Hold that thought. You're not going to go anywhere with us, but we're going to take a short break here on the Chamber Matters, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Dufferin Federation of Agriculture and its importance here in our community. So don't go away.